Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unearth with Shelly Hughes podcast. I'm Shelly Hughes. We are a podcast that really unearths the good, the bad, and the ugly of business and marketing. We talk about the wins, we talk about the loses, we talk about the mistakes, we talk about the lessons learned, just about growing a brand and growing a brand that we're really proud of. So today we're talking about branding. Um, we get a lot of branding requests from clients. And when I say branding, I don't mean necessarily a logo, right? And I think that's a huge misconception in the space that, if someone comes to me and they say, hey, can you just make a few tweaks to our logo? Most likely I'm going to tell them, hey, we're not the agency for you. You can certainly go find a freelancer, graphic designer, whatever. But um, we really take branding from a how can we give you the best return on your investment for this project? And so a lot of times when someone says, hey, we just want a logo, and they aren't really thinking critically about what their audience wants, what they care about, what their pains are, what their gains are, what your unique value proposition is, and putting all of that intentionality into what the essentially outside look and feel of your businesses, then ethically, a lot of times I'll probably pass on a project. So, um, what we'd like to do with branding is really apply it to whatever emotive appeal we want to have with a certain demographic. So we build out a brand strategy. That's kind of our first step in if someone wants a rebrand for their company. So we build out a brand strategy, and what that looks like, it's a few different steps. So first, we really do kind of a market audit and a social media audit, and say, okay, what are you doing now, right? Where are you? Where are you showing up? What are you doing now? What are you saying? What is kind of the personality behind what you're doing and saying? Is there one key message? Is there 100 messages? So we kind of see where we are. Then we talk to the stakeholders of a business. And you should kind of be doing this too if this is, if you are thinking about rebranding, is, what are some of the characteristics that you want people to feel when they interact with your brand? And that can either be in person walking into a store, that can be in person walking into your office, it can be seeing an ad in a magazine. How do you want them to feel, right? And then really, once we develop that brand strategy, only then can we kind of take that next step. And the reason we do this is because branding is all about association, right? Um, if someone walks down the street and they are carrying a Prada bag, and they have a big lush faux fur jacket, there's a certain judgment you put on that person. And really, it's the same thing. If someone is walking down the street with a North Face jacket and bean boots, there's a judgment you put on that person. Not a bad judgment, not a good judgment, but a judgment. You kind of know what they do on the weekends. You know how they probably interact with their peers. You know the kind of food that they like. You know their values, right? Simply based on the bag or the jacket that they're wearing. And that is identifying that judgment that a brand wants. That's going to take you really into developing what your brand identity is. So, Prada, for example, people buy Prada because they want to feel a certain way. They want to seem and be perceived as luxurious. They are associating themselves with the Prada brand because Prada has put themselves up as a luxurious brand. If you are wearing Prada, you will then in turn be perceived as luxurious. So branding is all about perception. And it's all about creating a tribe too, right? North Face people or North Face people, Bean Boot people or Bean Boot people, right? You create these tribes and these brand loyalties, not because they like your product necessarily, because you have to have a good product. That's minimum viable product, right? But is because those brands have taken an extra step to build a tribe based on a similar set of values. When we jump into branding for a client, first, we really want to decide what that judgment is. What do we want to be perceived as? How do we want to be judged? Do we want to be judged as sophisticated and professional? Do we want to be judged as youthful and playful? Do we like, what are some of our values as a brand? Is it sustainability? Is it we're good to our employees, right? And really what branding is, if I could define it, it's that gut feeling that someone has when they think about your brand. What it also is, you know, the way someone talks about you when you're not in the room. So if we could have, if we were in the like NYPD and we were in one of those interrogation rooms with a one-way mirror and someone is talking about your brand and we say, hey, let's say it's called brand X. What do you tell me some words you would describe brand X? If they start talking about your services, they start saying, hey, they're a marketing company run by women, right? They do digital marketing, they do PR, they do, right? It's all the commodity of what this brand does. That means you don't have a very strong brand identity. It's until you really want them to say things like, oh, they do really good stuff for our community. They are hiring a ton of people. They have a really great corporate social responsibility. They remind me of, my BFF when we go out and get cocktails, right? Until they start saying qualities like that, and you define what you want them to say when they're approached with that kind of question, only then is when you have a really strong brand identity. And so when you see that person, walking down the street and they're carrying that Prada bag, you identify them as also being luxurious, a luxurious person, a sophisticated person. Um, that's what brand strategy is. What brand identity is the purse, the jacket, the boots. It's literally the clothing that is on the outside. And only then that's when the logo comes in, right? So once we understand what the brand strategy is, how you want to be perceived, what are the pains and desires and gains of your audience, how we want them to talk about us, only then can we build that logo that represents that brand strategy. It really goes into public relations as too. Branding, PR, social media, it's all about association. So public relations is, if we want to be perceived and associated with a different brand. So let's say we have a really strong brand identity, but there is this boutique down the store that has a similar audience that we do, but we really haven't been able to tap into their exact audience. That is a way that PR can really help in strategic partnerships or events where let's do a collaborative, product or collaborative event, get their audience to attend, and then their audience would associate the two brands as being kind of sisters or brothers in a sense, and would be able to translate that brand loyalty from one to the other because they already trust that brand that they've been going to for so long. It's the same as if we were going into like the media opportunity, right? Would we want to be associated with the Wall Street Journal? Do we want to be associated with Philly Style? Do we want to be associated, what media outlet do we want to be associated with based on their reputation, their following? And that's where PR strategy comes into as well. So this is you know this is something we do for clients all the time. For example, one of our clients is Cork and Candles. They launched from COVID, and they realized that people were so disconnected because of COVID that they just want to bring friends back together. So that's their whole spiel, to be the place where friends gather. And another thing that they really pushed was really bringing our community together. COVID really split us all apart, and Cork and Candles really wanted to bring our community back together. Since then, they've expanded to multiple communities, which is great. So that's a whole other challenge that you have to think about. But one of the PR initiatives that we did, in addition to getting them on, all different kinds of news stations and things like that, um, was a strategic partnership with Alex's Lemonade Stand. And that was a very key partnership that we put together because Alex's Lemonade Stand has a really strong brand personality, specifically in the Philadelphia region, because that's where they're founded, but they are all across the country. Nationally, they have an outstanding representation, by the way they conduct themselves, the way that money is spent, and really who they're trying to help. So what we did is we set those two brands up because Cork and Candles really wanted to be associated with that kind of feeling, that kind of camaraderie and support for their community. So we created a collaborative candle, a lemon scented candle. We launched it during pediatric cancer awareness month, because of course Alex's Lemonade Stand is to donate money to pediatric cancer research. Um, Cork and Candles is a candle and scent bar, so they have the candles. So basically, we put those two brands together and really made something really profound where, a certain amount of proceeds that that candle makes will be donated directly to Alex's Lemonade Stand. I mean, there were thousands of dollars that we were able to donate to Alex's Lemonade Stand. And in turn, Cork and Candles really was able to make that association with a really um, admirable nonprofit in their locale, with an audience that they're interested in getting deeper into. And that's all PR and branding and association. So, all to say, when you step back, obviously understand who you are first, understand who you are, what you do best, how you want to be perceived. And then the branding piece of that and the PR piece of that, that kind of jumps off of branding, is okay, how can we make that association with a brand or a concept or a product that our audience already knows and trusts? If you make that connection, if you make that association, it's going to be much easier to kind of translate that trust to you. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. Send me a DM. If you like this episode, I would love for you to give it a like. I would love for you to rate this show a nice 5 stars, and share it with a friend, share it with a colleague that would be interested in some of these ideas. And we have an episode every week. So I will see you next week.